What is up, everybody? Skratch coming up with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today we got Coldbrew on the channel. What's up, Coldbrew? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. The weather is getting better here, a little bit cooler. I'm back to a better, feeling instead of just burning from the weather in Cyprus, you know that.
I know how it is. It can get pretty sweaty in there. This is take number 2, guys. We've done this video before, but the audio somehow got all messed up and it showed like I was constantly overlapping Coldbrew when I actually wasn't. So hopefully we're not gonna have the same issue again, because that's gonna be pretty damn painful. Today, we're gonna talk about 10 epic champions you didn't knew you needed them on your account. We're not gonna have the most obvious choices out there, like the top epic champions, but we're gonna give you 10 epic champions that are amazing in content. You don't need to have them necessarily fully booked. You don't need to have them necessarily at 60, depending on what sort of content you choose to do with them. And make sure you guys head over and subscribe to Coldbrew's channel. The link will be in the description down below or in the pinned comments. We already made a video there a few days ago, but feel free to check that out and check out the rest of the content there. I'm gonna let Coldbrew to start with the very first champion that we have on the list for you guys. Coldbrew, what we have for them in the menu today.
Yeah, we're starting out with the first faction in the list, right? Banner Lords. We're not gonna go all the factions, but this one happens to be Banner Lords. It's Giscard the Sigiled, all right? This is an epic champion that you might not be aware, but he has a very, very interesting kit that doesn't necessarily require the books, but the books make him all that much better, especially his A2 skills. What makes it so special, because of it's an AoE provoke, and it does get its cooldown reduced by the books, and its chance to also apply the provoke gets better with the books. Of course, if you don't have the books, because it's an AoE attack, you still manage to land a few. That makes you basically protect your attackers with that, and that's why he's so good. He also has an increased defense buff and an increased attack buff for his allies, and he also has a very interesting passive where he gets more turn meter when he gets hit if the enemy is under a provoke or increased attack buff, which all ties in together on how useful this champion can be. And he also has decreased attack A1, right, on a single target, but it's still useful. You can use it at the beginning of your clan boss when you're fighting clan boss, and you can use him there without the books, still get a lot of utility, protect your team, and even use him to carry you for faction wars, because he's got an interesting aura.
Yeah, definitely is actually a pretty solid champion. I just moved my big head out of the way, guys, so we can see the total stats on the champions and stuff. He's a pretty solid champion. I think he was the one that instantly got a bit of a nerf when they actually released him on the test server, because he was so freaking powerful with a 2-turn cooldown, I think, or something like that on the provoke. It was just crazy.
It was a 2-turn cooldown, 2-turn duration provoke.
Yeah, something like
we were
that.
Doing a video with Chosen, and we were like, this champion is insane. This will be the best champion, the best epic in the game.
Yeah, I know, right? It was pretty crazy.
Then Clarion was like, oh, wait a second.
We're gonna change it right there. We're not gonna let you have it, guys. You know, that's how it went. But
exactly.
Moving over to the next champion, guys, I'm gonna move all the way to the high airs, and I want to talk about Vargas. He is a bit of a more obvious choice, I would say, but he is such a beast of a champion. I feel like a lot of people don't really value this champion as much, and they underestimate his full potential. He has pretty good base stats, and in terms of survivability, he can tank for your team, and just on his own, he can just solo so many things. So on the A1, he places a reflect damage buff on a random ally. The A2 has continuous heal, increased speed, reflect damage on a target ally for 3 turns on a 3-turn cooldown, places ally protection buff on all allies except this champion, and places increased defense on this champion on a 3-turn cooldown. It is so freaking powerful. Like, a lot of people really don't understand how powerful can a skill like this be, and just look at how many buffs he has all around, guys. If we're gonna have a quick look at the passive as well, places a shield buff on the champion equal to 10% of the max HP. He is just able to stay alive. He has continuous heal too, and this can go all the way down to a 1-turn cooldown if you fully book the champion. Ally defense in dungeons by 33%. He's such a freaking powerful champion, man. Like, I wish more people would actually understand how strong he is and use the champion. Great for a lot of carries in dungeons on stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, he's amazing for Doom Tower, for some specific bosses. You can even use him for Bommel. I think the normal version of the Doom Tower for that one. That A2 is insane. Those 5 buffs that you can get are just amazing. The ally protection is always good to have in any kind of situation. I made a video for like the 10x we have right now, because ally protect is insane in terms of carrying you through. It's 50% of the damage taken, mitigated to the protector. So Verges, because of that, because of everything else that he applies, the reflect damage continuous heal, the increased defense, the shield that he gets with just a few books, you can get that to a 1-turn cooldown, makes him a very, very strong epic. Almost like a legendary. I could see this kid on a legendary for sure.
Yeah, and this was actually a buff because he wasn't that good before.
Was it? I can't remember.
Yeah, but a very, very long time ago, you know, something like it happened ages ago. What's the next champion that we have on the list, Coldbrew?
So the next champion is going to be over to the Barbarians. We're jumping over Sacred Order to the Barbarians with Skytouch Shaman. It's a Void epic, not so oftenly used, but it does have like a very unique kit. She does have a chance to apply a fear debuff on herself, but she was for a long time used as a PvP champion to help cleanse your whole team. You would use her with an immunity set. You can still do that, of course. She's very good against torments. With that kind of gear set, she helps cleanse, apply a block debuffs, and a revive on death buff for all allies for 2 turns. It's just an amazing champion to use for PvP. You don't need books to do that, and she can help you with other parts of the game because of a very big heal that she does with her passive. So you can combine all of that with more books to make it even better. But again, not a champion that definitely needs the books to do what she does. But the books make her better. And it's all up to you if you want to do that investment. Definitely worth it, I would say, to consider. If you're having issues with a healer, if you're having issues with lots of debuffs, let's say for the dragon, then Skytouch is the one.
Absolutely. I feel like she's definitely pretty solid. That cleanse, the heal from her passive was so freaking good before in Arena. Now we have more options on the table, different gear sets. Skytouch Shaman was freaking awesome, and she only has 967 reviews, guys. Come on, don't you guys use Skytouch Shaman anywhere at all? She's not great for clan boss because of the passive, but all around in other content, she is pretty freaking solid. Now I'm gonna move over to another cleanser, and I'm gonna go all the way to Lizardman's, and I'm gonna talk about my boy Catex. I feel like he got a bit of a value surge recently with the addition of the new dungeon as well, and just all around decreased speed on the A1, pretty solid. We have attacks all enemies, a chance to steal a random buff from each enemy, 100% if you fully book him, and the A3, that's kind of like the creme de la creme, removes all debuffs from all allies, the clans, then places a block debuffs and a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns. This is actually pretty solid. The shield value is based on his own HP, so the more HP you have on the champion, the bigger the shield. I like the passive too, places a block damage buff on this champion for 1 turn whenever their HP drops below 30%. Again, this is on a 6-turn cooldown if you don't fully book the skill, and it's pretty good, don't get me wrong, but I prefer to have a champion like this booked. Always prioritize the investment of books in the support champions that carry the team, you know, rather than the damage dealers as an idea when you're short on books. That's how I used to approach the game when I was free to play and at the beginning before I started doing content and stuff on it, you know.
Yeah, I totally agree with this champion getting a big boost because of the decreased speed. Basically, it's huge for the Iron Twins. And then we have the block debuff, which is the 2-turn buff. That is not so easily found in the game. Some champions have it better at a 3-turn cooldown. He has it at a 4-turn cooldown, but it's still, you can still build a team for clan boss and make it affinity friendly, even with a 4-to-3 ratio by using Catex in there. I did it not so recently, but for a takeover, I remember using Catex. I was trying to find a block debuff buff for 2 turns, trying to find it through all the champions on that account, and I remember it's Catex. Oh yes, and it made the team work. And he's definitely a solid carry if you definitely equip him right.
Definitely, I totally agree. What's the next champion that we have on the menu?
Yeah, we're staying there in the same faction. We're gonna go over to Aox the Rememberer. So we talked about Iron Twins. He has this passive which makes him pique the interest of lots of members of the community because of that, because you basically have to use Geomancer if you want to have a fast team. And that passive is insane for an epic. It increases the duration of 2 random debuffs on the attacker by 1 turn when attacked, occurs once per hit. So that is basically an easy way to extend the duration of your debuffs. If you know you have like specific debuffs that you always want to get extended, and let's say you have 2 or 3 debuffs, it's much easier when this passive is available because you have the HP burn, let's say from Geomancer, or let's say you wanted to have an attack down and something else on the enemy when they attack you, that is extended. And this guy makes it work. He also has a poison, although at a low chance to happen, because his other parts of his skills, like his A2 is a big heal, which also gets boosted depending on the debuffs on the target. He's got an A3 with a decreased attack, decreased critical rate. There is lots in his kit that make him work. The thing is that his passive doesn't even need books. So if it's only that thing that you're looking for, then he's an easy choice to use in a team.
Yeah, he's actually pretty solid as a champion. And how you mentioned, he kind of like got a bit of a value surge for the Iron Twins recently as well. And all around, I'm not such a big fan of the A1 because the chance is so low to drop the poisons, very similar with Steel Skull. But I feel like he's definitely a champion worth the investment, basically, you know. So definitely pretty solid. I'm gonna move over to the next champion that we have on the menu. It's not like we're eating, but I'm kind of like hungry, so let's just say call it menu. We're gonna go all the way to the Orcs faction. This is the champion that even Coldbrew asked me, like, who's that champion? You know, like, I completely forgot about his existence. York, old Hermit York. A lot of people only see him as a faction war champion, a faction war reviver, you know? But he's so much more than that. He has pretty decent base stats, pretty good speed. The A1 has a single target HP burn, but what makes him the GOAT is the A2. Increase attack on all allies for 2 turns and fills the turn meter by 20% on a 3-turn cooldown, and revives 2 random allies with 60% HP and fills the turn meter by 40, and a perfect veil buff on them for 2 turns. So if you get this champion earlier on when you're still kind of like working even on your arena teams, maybe you have a champion that has a speed aura like Skullcrown, Gambo, or other champions that only work for arena, but you still need that increased attack to bring in the damage for your team. You need a revive for arena. He is an extremely powerful champion for that guy, so definitely don't sleep on him, you know.
Yeah, basically he's a big upgrade over I want to say Spirit Host. I think she does an increased attack. At the early game, you start out building your arena team. You have maybe High Katoon as your speed lead. You have her boost, and then you get lucky, you get Old Hermit, you put him in there, increased attack plus another turn meter boost in there. Really helps your team get going and maybe be faster, so you can climb up arena much easier. Maybe get into the silver arena, get into maybe the beginning of gold. This champion will help you until eventually you'll get Arbiter, which is obviously the better upgrade, but very solid kit and doesn't need the books to get what you want. So like a good revive, a solid revive, and the increased attack and turn meter boost.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like he's definitely very solid. You want to take us to the next champion that we have?
Yeah. We're looking at Rask next. Although people might think this is an obvious choice, people don't realize on how good this champion is because he's so easy to gear. That's what I want to stress about this champion right here. You need crit, get it to 100%, and then you need health. That's it. You build him with lots of max to boost his max health, right? And get him to maybe 70,000 health, 80,000 health if your gear is quite solid. And then you decide maybe Retaliation set, Relentless set, or even Speed set, Immortal set. Anything works as long as you get the stats required. You don't need books at all. And then you just use his A1, which fills this champion's turn meter by 20% if this attack is critical. That all ties in together and makes him a godlike healer for your champion. It's just amazing. Used a ton of times for Doom Tower, used for many other difficult areas of the game where you need some more healing. Faction Wars, he's a great healer. So definitely use Rask if you have him.
Absolutely. I feel like this is the best example in the entire game as a champion that doesn't need books to do what he does the best, because the books don't decrease any cooldown, don't increase the healing, don't increase nothing. So booking this champion is not really going to make a massive difference. You're just going to get a bit of extra damage from the A1, which will not benefit his kit whatsoever. How Coldbrew mentioned, full crit rate, and he does have a pretty high base HP, 23,000, almost 23.5. It's not gonna be as hard to get him on a high HP, you know, to get the most out of the champion, but definitely a very solid one. Moving over to the next champion, we have another orc actually, 3 orcs on the list, a lot of underestimated champions. So with the A1, attacks 1 enemy 2 times, each hit has a 30% chance of increasing the cooldown of one of the target skills by 1 turn at random. The A2 is actually pretty solid as well because it attacks all enemies, and fully booked has a 100% chance to land decreased speed. Definitely very helpful on waves, helpful on faction wars, helpful all around even on bosses. Also places an increased speed buff on the champion, heals the champion by 15% of the damage inflicted if he has less than 50% HP. A lot of stuff in his kit is related with him being under the 50% HP, so the lower the HP on him is actually gonna benefit him more all around. The A3 attacks 1 enemy, steals 50% of the target's current turn meter, and has a chance to place a stun for 2 turns. all, or if he's under 50% HP, steals 100% of the target's turn meter. So great, great for the Spider Dungeon, great for the Fire Knight. The only problem is that this is on a 4-turn cooldown, you know, so he's not crazily OP, but pretty solid for those dungeons, and decreases the damage taken by this champion by 20% when their HP drops below 60, attack aura for all battles. I feel like Tuhak the Wanderer is definitely a pretty good champion for some of the dungeons, faction war. So if you have one, definitely considering building him if you need some help in some of these areas. You know, what do you think about Tuhak Coldbrew?
Here we go again.
I was thinking of my Coldheart on top of my head with the A3. You know, I was gonna say like she is on a 4-turn cooldown too. But what's up, Coldheart? How you doing?
That's my new nickname. Yeah, that A3 is pretty unique. Not that many champions have it. I totally agree. It's a steal of turn meter also, so it's not just a turn meter removal like Coldheart. So he can potentially get like an extra turn just because of that if he's already under 50% health. And you can use that as a big control skill. I like the decreased speed on his A2. His A1 looks solid as well as a way to increase the cooldowns. The passive also helps him stay a little bit tankier when he's under that 60% health. So yeah, overall, a very solid champion to have.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, if you want to take us over to the next champion, Mr. Coldheart.
Oh my god, that's going to be my new nickname.
I know, right?
Next one, we're looking at the Undead Hordes. We've got Leech here, the epic that is needed for the Razin fusion. So many people just disregard this champion because he's just food for Razin, okay? You use him to get Razin, but they forget that he has a very strong A3 skill that, look at that, decreases the target's turn meter by 100%, places a 30% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. That is, on its own, without looking at any of his other 2 skills, that is insane. This goes to 3 turns cooldown for 100% depletion of turn meter and decreased speed. Very, very good for the Spider. I made a video the other day showcasing him in there as the only champion to control the big Spider. And this even works at 25 because he's actually good affinity there compared to 20. He's got a decreased accuracy in the A1 and then a 60% increased defense buff on this champion for 2 turns on the A2 plus a heal. That works for 20, for Spider 20 as well. Makes him a little bit tankier. He's going to be the Spider tank. Overall, a great champion. If you're just looking for somebody to control turn meter, you can use this guy at level 50. But he does need, I would say, the books if you really want to have one champion for that role. Because of the way that the cooldowns are decreased by that. Overall, a very solid, I would say, underappreciated, underutilized epic champion.
Yeah, I actually really like that you brought him up because he is a pretty solid champion, super powerful for faction wars. If you put him on a reflex set or relentless, it's so freaking good for the A3 to constantly manipulate the turn meter on the boss. This will actually maybe allow you to finally 3-star Undead stage 21 if you are struggling there. How you mentioned, great for a Spider as a tank. Great all around just to manipulate the turn meter on bosses and have that decreased speed. Leech, definitely an awesome pick. Really, really glad that you brought him up, actually. Moving over to my next champion. This is the last one. Plus, we're going to give you guys a bonus one, but we're going to move to that in just a second. So, I have Gala Longbraids. Single target DPSers are not as powerful in Arena anymore. Through her value downtrended a bit with all these crazy sets in Arena. We started with Swift Parry, Reaction, now we have Stone Skin, and single target champions, they're not as efficient anymore. But Gala Longbraid, she is such a freaking beast. She deals so much damage, guys. The A1 attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit will ignore defense. Places a shield buff on the champion, so she is great for the Fire Knight dungeon too. She does have slower animations because, hey, she's little, she runs around, smacks, and she gets back. But she is pretty good to use in this dungeon. The A2 attacks one enemy will ignore 50% of the target's defense when attacking under a shield buff. So you can make this work with a divine set or have a champion on a shield set to ignore the defense from here. Heals the champion by 50% of the damage inflicted and places a shield buff on the champion equal to any surplus heal for 3 turns. If we're gonna move over to the A3, attacks one enemy 3 times and each hit will ignore 25% of the target's defense. Grants an extra turn if this champion has full HP after using this skill. So basically, before you are able to go in arena, start with this skill, obliterate one tank, move over to a different skill, obliterate another tank. Pretty much game over. You can't do this anymore because of all the sets that I just named before, but she's still very powerful for PvE. She's such a beast for Faction Wars, guys. As a damage dealer, she is absolutely amazing, and we have an increases ally attack in all battles by 25%. I definitely cannot recommend Gala Longbraids enough. I really feel like she is really underestimated as a champion, but she's such a freaking awesome epic champion. What do you think about her?
Yeah, I like how you covered her in all areas. Basically, yeah, she was an insane champion way back in the day where the single target nukers could do some work in arena. But this is no longer the case, especially in more high-end arena. Maybe if you're just starting out, you won't see so many of the high-end legendaries in lower arena. And maybe you can still use her in there. But definitely a worthwhile Faction Wars champion to consider. She can actually be the one that tanks the hits from the boss on 21. You give her a lifesteal set, a little bit of good stats in there so that she can heal back to full whenever she gets hit by the big boss. That way she gets an extra turn. She does very solid damage to the boss, and she remains tanky enough because she can also get shields through her A1 skill. So overall, a great champion to consider if it's just Faction Wars. Then yeah, definitely use Gala, I would say.
Absolutely, like really solid. And how I mentioned, guys, we're gonna give you guys a bonus champion. We're gonna add a bonus champion to the list. You know me, I can never stick to what I'm saying. Top 10 and I end up with top freaking 50 or stuff like that. That's just typical Skratch on a daily basis. But this time around, this is a free champion. Everybody can go and get a champion. Coldbrew, if you want to take us to the champion, I'm gonna leave you in charge with it.
This one's a permanent fusion that we have. So if you guys have checked your permanent fusions, you'll see Throttle Mao in there. Quite easy to get, I would say, because you just need a few uncommons to get them. And then the other two rares are through the tag arena. Slowly you work through that and you get that epic. And that will be your carry for that specific faction. If you're looking for a good reviver, he can also do that. Throttle Mao has a control skill on his A1, which is a freeze with a pretty solid chance, 45% chance to apply a freeze. That can be, very crucial for Faction Wars. A2, pretty solid again, critical rate, increased speed buff, also turn meter boost. Quite long cooldowns in terms of having him unbooked. And then he's got a big revive on the A3, which makes him special for Faction Wars where you need to get that 3-star. I did use him in the past with level 50 and managed to get the 3-star on 21, but it does take a lot more control. So it's a little bit harder when you have a champion at 50. You need to be more careful on the gear that you equip. But look at that, a 2-person revive plus a block damage, which basically helps them at least survive a little bit longer until maybe you have another healer in there to get them to a much healthier state. And really a solid carry. And with only under 1,000 reviews.
Yeah, I feel like he's definitely a pretty solid champion. And a lot of people are ignoring him early on. This is a progression champion, don't get it wrong. And then in the end game, you can use him in Faction Wars, Secret Room on the Lizardman in the Doom Tower hard mode. As a champion, you can use him on dungeons to carry your team because he's gonna do the work. If you're not, it's still a long way till you get to Seal of the Drakes, right? You need to play quite a few months together. Now, if you get this champion before,
180 days.
Yeah, if you get this champion before, Throttle Mao is gonna carry your ass. Plus, you could use this champion as an addition to your team with Seer, maybe if you have a Seer, for the buffs that he offers, so she can nuke harder on the waves. All around, I feel like Throttle Mao is really underestimated as a champion, and definitely more people should consider him for progression if they're not spending tons of money and pulling tons of shards to get all sort of crazy. Coldbrew, was a pleasure to have you on the channel. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you head over and check his channel out. The link will be in the pinned comment. Appreciate all of you guys watching as usual. Much love, and I'll catch you all soon in the next one. Peace.